We should be good. Can we
Looks good.
the way we want to? Well, great. This is why we're here tonight. Reversing Neuropathy Natural. And this title always makes me laugh because at the bottom it says without drugs and surgery. You know, you cannot reverse neuropathy with drugs and surgery. So that's kind of you'll know that by the end of the night. So that's kind of a funny title we've got there. So in beginning, I would just like to, let me see if I got to get this rolling here. There we go. Congratulate you for being here. I want you to pat yourself on the back. It's a big commitment to sacrifice your evening to be here with us to go through these things. And you know what? It tells me a lot about you. It tells me that getting better is important to you, and it tells me that you want to take control of your health. I like that. You'll see that that's an important thing to me as we go along. So as we get started, very first thing in the chat, here's what I want to see. Please put in the chat either a yes or a no. Do you think neuropathy can be reversed? Simple. You can put a Y or an N if you like. That works too. Yes or no?
We're getting some yeses. Joanna, Marina, Sean, overwhelming yeses. Oh, Bev, we do have a no coming in. Edmund, there's another no.
Yeah.
We are still getting more yeses than nos. But we're getting a lot of response, and again, I appreciate that. We want this to be as interactive as possible. Again, we want this to be designed towards your needs. So please continue to participate in the chat.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And you know what? I love seeing the yeses, the nos, all of it. Here's the deal. I know that if you're on this call with us tonight, that either you or someone you love suffers from neuropathy. And that's a big deal. It's a big interference in life. And if you were to go to the doctor who manages this condition for you, the one who's prescribing your medications, and you say, Doc, is it possible for me to get off these medications? Is it possible for me to reverse this condition, to stop having numbness, tingling, cramping in my legs, lightning bolt, shocking pains, climbing me out of bed in the middle of the night? Is it possible to get rid of all of that? Chances are the answer that you're going to get is this right here. I'm sorry to tell you, but nothing can be done. You have to live with it. The best we can do is give you these pills. They're going to help cover up the pain. They're going to cover up the symptoms. And when they stop working, we'll give you more. And that's usually the answer that most people get. So with your pen and paper, I want you to write down this first thing. That is a false narrative. That is incorrect. And we're going to show you tonight that you can, in fact, get off your medications. You can get the sensitivity back in your feet. You can get your balance and your coordination back. You can sleep through the night without pain and without pain meds and without keeping your partner up at night, your spouse. It is very much possible, and it upsets us that this is the common thing that's told out there in the world today. And I want you to see this right here, the National Institutes of Health. They say the peripheral nerves have the ability to regenerate as long as the underlying cell has not been killed. As long as that nerve cell is not dead, we can regenerate it. And yet the word that we get is no, we can't reverse this condition. You're just stuck with it for life. So let me ask you another question. Put this in the chat. What percentage of improvement in your symptoms would be life-changing? Is it 20%? Is it 50%? Is it 100%? Where is it that you feel would be life-changing for you? How much improvement would you need to get to feel life-changing?
Well, looks like Brent's at 50%. Joanna's at 50%. Norman's at 50%. Seems to be a pretty common. Dolores, 90%. Sean, 99%. Not going to quite hit that 100 mark, but he's happy with 99. Marina, 100%. Herb, 50%. Estella, 100%. So we're seeing a wide range from 50 to 100 tonight.
Well, good. I want to ask you a question here. This is the dumb question of the evening. Who here on our call tonight would like to feel 60 to 100% better? Every hand would go up. We won't even wait for that. That's the stupid question of the evening. Of course, we all would. And 60 to 100% is life-changing when we're talking about neuropathy. So let me ask you this. Look, some people think it's reversible. Some people think it's not. who are these crazy old men sitting here telling you that we can reverse this condition? Well, let's tell you a little bit about ourselves.
Absolutely. So I'll start. My name's Dr. Eric Cipriano. A little bit about my personal life is I have 7 children and 7 grandchildren. My grandchildren are my life. They're my why. Even though family is everything to me, and if I was unable to play soccer, play basketball, I taught my 7-year-old granddaughter how to paddleboard this summer. If I wasn't able to do those things, it would kill me. And I get so much joy out of being able to spend that time with them. In addition to that, you know, you can see here in this middle picture with me being able to perform the ceremony for my second oldest son at his wedding. And then later on that same year, I got to do the same thing for one of my youngest daughters. So being able to be active and part of their lives is extremely important to me. On a professional note, I started my career as a chiropractic physician. After several years in practice, I had a very lucrative opportunity to move into the pharmaceutical industry and had a wide range of positions ranging from sales and marketing up to health economics, and finished out my career in research and development. And during that time, I got to a point where I was extremely unhappy. And I realized it's because what I was doing on a day-to-day basis was against what my core belief system was. And that's that the body has the ability to heal itself. And yet here I am working in a profession where I'm developing medications to put a Band-Aid over them, to do nothing more than mask the symptoms. And I knew from the marketing side that we weren't trying to cure anybody. Our goal was to have patients on medications for a lifetime. And I finally got to a point that I wasn't happy with that anymore. And I went back to my roots of trying to identify what's the underlying cause of these chronic conditions that patients are having, and how can I address the root of the problem and stop trying to just mask what we call the fruit or the symptoms. So you'll hear us refer to addressing the root, not the fruit. I finally changed my direction in life and went back to treating the root and not the fruit of the problem. And that's what brought me to opening up Wellspring with Dr. Norman.
Very good. Well, Dr. Cipriano and myself, we've been friends for 25 years. I started my practice in chiropractic about 30 years ago. This is my 30th year. And it wasn't long into practice before, well, about the time that Dr. Eric was leaving to go to the pharmaceutical world, I was personally involved in a catastrophic car accident in which I was pronounced dead. 20 minutes after the crash, I came around and got myself out of the vehicle. And that started a cascade of issues for me that looked really bleak for a long time. I had broken my neck and herniated discs in my spine. Within a year, my kidneys failed. The next year, I had bowel resection surgery. The list just went on and on. So I ended up with all kinds of issues, and including later on type 2 diabetes and neuropathy. So I know a lot of you, statistically speaking, we've got probably 70, 75 of you on here with type 2 diabetes, because statistically speaking, that's about the percentage of people with neuropathy. And it doesn't have to be that way. You know, when I was first diagnosed with kidney failure, I was sat in the office with my nephrologist. And I said to him, what can I do to improve this? What can I do? And he said, nothing. There's nothing you can do. This is your life now. And if you don't have a kidney transplant or go on dialysis before the end of the year, you're going to die. And that didn't sit right with me. That just didn't sit right. So I went to work. I went to work doing the things that we know, that we treat the root, not the fruit. And I began to learn more and more about these kinds of issues. So within a month, my labs had improved. And the doctor was really dumbfounded because this never happens. And that was our visit from month to month, because I kept getting better and improving. Now, 2 years after that initial diagnosis, I ran 5 triathlons with the same kidneys. But as I progressed 9 years later, they finally did give up the ghost, and I went on dialysis and then did get a kidney transplant, a gift from my sister, which saved my life at that point. But from there, that I went into type 2 diabetes and neuropathy, because that's just what happens as you lose your health along those ways. And I want you to know that it doesn't have to be that way, because I no longer have those issues. I don't take any medications. I'm not a diabetic, and I don't have neuropathy. So when I tell you that it's absolutely reversible, I'm speaking not just as a physician, but as a patient. I did it myself. And we're going to show you that along the way. Now, enough about us. Enough about us. We want to talk more about you. So I want you to put in the chat some of the symptoms that you're having so that we know where to focus our discussion tonight. Are you having numbness in the feet, in the toes, in the fingers? Do you have the burning pain? Do you have the lightning bolt pain that causes you to fly out of the bed at night? That was my worst part. Do you have hand pain? Do you have cramping in your legs? And do you have other joint pains that come along as well? What are we seeing in the chat there, Dr. C?
We started off just seeing a lot of yeses, and I have it all. Joanna has the tingling, the numbness, the leg and foot cramping. Edmund says yes to all of them. Deborah says yes. Herb says I have them all. And Bev has numbness, lightning bolts.
Yeah.
There's one we didn't talk about, but that's one that really seems to get people, is those lightning bolts, especially those ones that hit you in the middle of the night. Tingling hand pain, leg and foot cramping from Michelle.
Anybody noting balance and coordination issues?
That's usually one that we get a lot of, and haven't had anybody bring that up. But as soon as we said that, Bev does have balance issues. Annie says yes, that she does as well. Ronnie agrees that. So although we didn't bring it up on the slides, it's definitely seems to be an issue that a lot of people are suffering from.
Yeah, we'll talk about this later on tonight, everyone. The balance and coordination issues is a very specific and important part that needs to be addressed and spoken of. But here, I want to show you something. This is me. This is my foot. Now, this is a thermal image, and thermal imaging obviously just registers the heat of things. Now, what we should expect to see in the human body is these nice red colors, like you can see up higher in my foot. As the temperature decreases, as the damage from neuropathy and circulatory issues increases, the colors change. We go from reds to yellows to greens and down all the way to blue. These blue toes, I had almost no sensation to touch left in those toes, but I'm telling you, I still had lightning bolt pain. I had all kinds of issues in that regard. I could not even let the sheets rest on my toes as I went to bed. So I went to bed with my toes hanging out. Come heat or come cold room, it didn't matter. My toes had to be out. So beginning the program, this is me 10 weeks after beginning. You'll notice that the red foot looks much better. The toes are now yellow, no green and no blue. And now if I can show you, this is my toes today. All red, no more yellows, greens, blues. And boy, do I have sensation in my feet. Coordination and balance, yeah, that's returned as well. So it's a big deal. When you do things right, your body has an amazing ability to heal itself. Amazing things can happen. So that's really what we're here to talk about tonight, right? How can this be you? And then we're going to understand these 5 things by the time we're done. Number 1 is, what is going on with the fact that I'm doing everything I'm told, but I keep getting worse? We're going to talk to you about the reason why what you're doing isn't working. We're going to talk about the underlying causes of neuropathy and what's really driving the disease forward. We're going to have what we call the uncomfortable conversation, the things that probably you haven't heard yet from your physician or from anyone else that really needs to be discussed in understanding what your future is if you don't take control of this condition. We're going to talk about proven methods for reversing neuropathy, for improving it to a degree that your life is very much improved. And we're going to talk about, how do we get the ball rolling for you? What are the simple steps to start this process for you? So right now I have a question. Anybody in here sick and tired of taking medications?
And as you're pondering that, I want you to do me a favor and put in the chat and let me know how many medications you're on, not just how many medications you're taking for neuropathy, but just in general, how many medications are you taking for all of your different medical conditions? And I'm seeing 5. Joanne's taking 20.
Holy cow,
So
Joanne.
many medications. And again, sorry to hear that there's so many medications in order to gain control of your health. Looks like Bev also is taking at least 20. And then we're seeing, Michelle's at 4, Frank's at 5. So here's the reason why I ask this. We know that on average, Americans get 13 new prescriptions per year. And you look at some people, such as Dr. Norman and myself, who currently are not on any medications. And that means that there's other people that are taking our share. And, here we are having people on the line tonight that are taking upwards of 20 medications. It's just astonishing that's where we've gotten to in society is having to take so many medications that aren't necessarily addressing or fixing the problem. And when we actually look at the percentage of medications taken by the US, we consume 75% of the medications produced in the world. Now, that may not seem too astonishing to others when we think about us being such an advanced medical country and having the healthcare that we have available to us versus other countries. But you have to realize that the US is only 5% of the world's population, and yet we're consuming 75% of the medications. Now, you would think with that this would lead to a significant decrease in chronic disease. But yet we've continued to see the rise of chronic disease, even though we're seeing these huge numbers of medications prescribed every year. So why is it that we're still seeing an increase in diabetes, an increase in heart disease, an increase in neuropathy, an increase in immunology diseases, when we're consuming more medications than any other country on the planet? And part of it speaks to us treating the wrong thing. We need to treat the underlying condition and stop putting Band-Aids on everything. We need to treat the root and not the fruit. So let me ask in the chat, how many people are on gabapentin? And with that, what dose of gabapentin are you taking? You usually see a very wide range here. And just, I'm seeing a lot about unable to take and the side effects that it causes, and that's all correct. Schwinn's taking 2,400 milligrams a day. Again, such high doses. 500 milligrams. I've seen as much as 800 milligrams 3 times a day, which is extraordinary, especially when we think about the fact that gabapentin is actually not designed for neuropathy, but it's an anti-seizure medication. And it's actually designed to slow the process of the signals going from your feet to your brain. So it's not treating the underlying cause. It's just trying to slow down or block that signal so that it doesn't get to your brain. And it doesn't stop the progression in any way. The disease is going to continue to progress, which is why you're going to continue to need more and more medication in order to try to mask those symptoms. I'm sure a lot of you are also on Lyrica, which again, Lyrica is an anti-seizure medication. And it has had millions and millions of dollars spent on the marketing. And when we look at the side effects, and I've had multiple people comment in the chat now, the side effects that they're experiencing from these, such as fatigue, such as loss of balance, dizziness. These are all things that we're often experiencing as a result of the neuropathy, that loss of balance and fatigue. And yet we're taking a medication that's causing a worsening of those symptoms. And again, it doesn't stop the progression. It just slows down that signal that goes to your brain. So then what happens is we end up taking another medication on top of that in order to correct the side effects that we're experiencing from that. And over time, we get to that point where we are taking 20 plus medications because we're taking them to counteract the side effects from the other medication.
You know, the crazy thing about this, if I can interject, is this. You know, everyone's been to a carnival. And my whole life, I think this game has been available, whack-a-mole. Everybody's seen that before? You've got a mallet in your hand, and out of a little hole pops up the head of a mole, and you whack it on the head. And then another one pops up out of another hole, and you whack it on the head. And the longer you play the game, the quicker and the more heads pop up, and you whack those moles down as quickly as you can. And it seems to me that our current situation is that we are playing whack-a-mole with our health. We have an issue, so we take a medication. The issue is the head popping up. We whack it down with a medication. Well, that causes a couple of other symptoms. That 2 more heads pop up, and we whack those down with 2 more medications. And the thing goes on, and we're trying to keep up with ourselves, trying to whack down all those moles' heads by taking more medications on top of medications on top of medications. And it's completely insane if you look at it under that light. Now, the key here is this. We would never put up that kind of treatment with our cars. We treat our automobiles better than we treat our bodies. We're driving down the road, let's say, and this light pops on in the dash, the check engine lights. Now, what do? Everybody gets panicky, and the first opportunity we have, we drive into a professional and we have it checked out. They hook it to a computer or whatever way they need to get to it, and they figure out what is the cause of the check engine light. What's the root of the problem? Now, let's say you take it to a mechanic and you go in and he has the car for 20 minutes and he brings it back and he says, that light won't bother you anymore. Everything's good. And you look at the dash. You look at the dash and you've got a piece of masking tape put over the light. No worries. That light won't bother you anymore. We wouldn't put up with that. We wouldn't put up with that. We would take the car to another mechanic and we would make sure that the problem was dealt with so that we have longevity of the car. Well, our bodies have check engine lights. And it's the symptoms that you're experiencing in your feet, in your hands, and anywhere else that the things are going on. That is your check engine light. And it's telling you that something's going on and you need to deal with it. And we got to quit putting up with the idea that we can mask the symptom while the problem continues. We pull the batteries out of the smoke alarm while the fire rages on, and it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable. In regards to peripheral neuropathy, there are many causes. There are lots of reasons why you might have neuropathy in your life right now. Now, the number one, by and large, is diabetes. But there are other reasons. It could be some toxic exposure. It could be injuries. It can be alcohol abuse. It can be liver failure, all autoimmune diseases. There's all kinds of reasons. But what is happening in each and every case, in your feet and in your hands, is damage to the nerves that are on in those fingers and toes and up the foot and into the legs. Now, don't get hung up on the physiology here, on the complexity. We're going to make it simple. This here is a healthy nerve. Notice that you've got this wick coming out of the front. That's the actual impulse nerve fiber, and it's surrounded by this casing here called the myelin sheath. And the myelin sheath is an insulator for that nerve. It helps protect the nerve and has some other functions as well. Wrapped around the myelin sheath are blood vessels. Now, these red ones represent arteries bringing in oxygen and nutrition, nitrous oxide, and all of the things that this nerve needs to be healthy and strong and function properly. And yes, heal itself when it becomes damaged. If we had the veins on here, they would be blue and they would be carrying away all the oxidative trash. We call it cellular trash, all of the byproducts of cell function that need to be carried away so that the nerve can be healthy and strong. Well, what happens in each case of neuropathy, regardless of the situation, is the blood vessels are becoming damaged and they're not bringing all the things to your nerves that they need. the myelin sheath is becoming damaged. And so it no longer is protecting the nerve the way that it should be. And what do? We start having symptoms here. So we go visit our doctor and we say, hey, doc, my toes are numb. I got some lightning bolts. And he says, here's this medication. This will make you feel better. And it does usually on the outset start making you feel better, but it does nothing for the progression of the disease. And so this continues to happen. The blood vessels get worse and more damaged. The myelin sheath becomes more and more damaged. The nerve starts malfunctioning. It starts short circuiting. And those are the pains and the discomforts we're feeling. And so what do? We return to the doc and he ups our medication and we feel better for a while. But again, it does nothing for the progression until we get down to a nerve that no longer has a decent blood supply. And in time, that nerve will die. You'll lose the ability to fight off infection. You won't be able to feel where you're going, where your feet are hitting. You won't feel the stairs, the pedals in the cars, or any of the other things. And that's where the real tragedies start to happen. Now, if this picture was very daunting to you, like it is for some people, I want you to think of it this way. Just think of an electrical cord. If the outer casing becomes damaged, if the protective sheath, the insulation becomes damaged, the wire becomes exposed. And not only does it short circuit, but if you were to reach down and pick up this cord, you're going to get a shock. And it's not unlike what some of us feel in our toes and our feet. And I know that some of you are feeling that. So that's a simplification of what's going on down in the nerves. That's exactly what we need to heal to reverse the condition. So here are the most common signs of neuropathy. It's the numbness, it's the burning pain, it's the cramping, it's the sharp electrical pain, it's the lightning bolts, it's the prickling and the tingling, they can't sleep at night, it always seems to get worse at night, the cold, the heat, and the thing that people don't often discuss is the balance and coordination problems that come from this. Now, this is some of the things that aren't discussed with you, so we want to discuss it tonight. And that is this. Falls are the #1 reason that seniors go into nursing homes. Now, 1 out of 3 seniors will fall each year. So there are 55 million Americans over the age of 65. And if you're over the age of 65, you probably have a couple of friends that are over the age of 65. So you can, in your mind, look to your right and look to your left and know that one of you is likely to have a fall this year. One of the 3 is going to fall. And 10 to 30% or 20 to 30% of those falls result in serious trauma like broken bones, traumatic head injury, and yes, even death. So these are serious issues that are not very often discussed. It is the leading cause of injury death in all those over the age of 65. And it can be prevented many times by simply getting the sensation and stories back into your feet. Now, this pretty gal right here is my mom. My mom called me early on a Saturday morning, 6 a.m., the phone rings. And on the other end of the line, I hear my mom's voice in a panic. She says, Jeff, I'm hurt. I need help. I said, I'll be right there. I hung up the phone. I made the 20-minute drive in 10 minutes. Thankfully, that early on a Saturday morning, there were no police out in my pathway. I came screaming into her driveway and I let myself in the door and I ran up to her room and I found my mother on the floor between the bed and the wall. She had gotten up to use the bathroom around midnight. And she had fallen and shattered an ankle, and it took her 6 hours to crawl across the bedroom floor so she could reach a phone to call for help. We were able to get my mom into the hospital. She required surgery. She was in bed rest for months and months. My mom never regained her life, and a short time later, she died because of the injuries that she sustained in that fall. That's why this is so important to me. That's why we are passionate about what we do. This is a picture of yours truly. Look at this little bald-headed guy right here. That's me sitting on the lap of my mother. And I love that picture. That was almost 60 years ago now. So what else? What if it's not falling you're worried about? Do you know that amputation is a very big deal regarding those of you with type 2 diabetes and neuropathy? In our country, we have 86,000 amputations every year. You think it won't be you. You think it can't be you. But that is 235 people a day are having something cut off of their body, toes, feet, legs, fingers, because they can no longer sustain that tissue. That body part is cut off and thrown in the medical trash like it has no value. And then life is ever different. It brings on wheelchairs, crutches, prosthetics, changing your house. It's a big deal, and nobody discusses this with you. So if this isn't on your radar for what's coming down the road ahead of you, it ought to be. And this is a conversation not very often had because it's uncomfortable and people don't like sharing these kinds of things. But you have a piece of your body removed. How do you think you're going to feel emotionally? I can tell you that when I got a kidney transplant, having a person, another piece of someone's body inside of me, keeping me alive, was really emotionally difficult for me to bear at first. I had to push it completely out of my mind for a period of time until I could deal with it. I can't imagine losing a piece of myself because there's no getting back from that. So if that's not what you're worried about, what about this? When you're out driving, can you feel the pedals under your feet? Now, this car right here, that store is called Dollar General. And that car belongs to my father. My stepmom couldn't feel the difference between the brake and the gas. She hit the gas and went right through the plate glass window. Now, thankfully, no one was hurt. No one was in the way. And just her ego was bruised at the time. But it's a big deal. Can you imagine how you would feel if driving you had that situation and you caused injury to somebody?
You know, there's a lot of patients that we see that have lost their license specifically for this reason, that they no longer can feel the pedals underneath their feet. They've had some type of a minor accident. And every single time I talk to somebody that has had this experience, fortunately, their number one comment to me is, at least nobody was hurt. But think about the times when somebody does get hurt. Think about the times when then you can't feel those pedals underneath your feet and you accidentally hit the accelerator and run into the car behind you or a child that's crossing the street. This is reality. This is what happens if we don't address this early and we let it progress to this point where you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, so up to this point, what have your choices been? Well, really, you've only had three choices. You could do nothing, which doesn't solve any issues and it just continues to get worse and you're miserable. You can go to your primary care doctor and he can prescribe you medications, which makes you feel better quite often, but it does nothing to prevent the progression of this disease, as we've discussed. The third option has been to go to a neurologist, go see a specialist, and he can do some advanced nerve testing on you. It's expensive, it's very uncomfortable, and guess what the outcome is? More of the same medications. That's the standard of care. Cover up the sensations, don't worry about the progression of the disease. And what's the end game for everybody that's going through this? Well, it's the inability to fight off infections. It's damage to the toes and the feet that can't be healed. And so it ends up in canes, walkers, wheelchairs, surgeries, and eventual amputations. It ends up in falls and loss of driver's license and the loss of life. And I'm not just talking about dying, I'm talking about the life you wanted to live. So why? Why is this the thing we keep doing? Knowing that it doesn't work, why would we keep doing the same thing? We're getting the results that we're getting. Keeping in mind, the National Institutes of Health, they understand that we can regenerate these nerves. So let's do it. How do we do it? Let's talk about that. There's really 3 steps. Now we can talk about it simply, but it takes a lot of know-how. We've got to restore normal blood flow. We have to stimulate, re-educate, rehabilitate the damaged nerves, and we've got to decrease the inflammation that is driving the damage that's going on in your body. So how do we increase blood flow? Well, we have an FDA-regulated medical device. It was a technology developed for NASA, and it shows that we can decrease pain We can increase the speed of cell regeneration. We can increase blood flow. We can promote what's called angiogenesis. Now, angiogenesis is just a fancy term to describe your body's ability to create new blood vessels where they're needed. In this case, on the nerves, in the toes and fingers. It can decrease healing time substantially. So with that in place, how do we revive the nerves? How do we re-educate and take care of them? Well, again, an FDA regulated medical device. It's a technology used by the Cancer Centers of America all across the nation for chemotherapy-induced neuropathy. And they report a 94% success rate with this device. So this device can re-educate the nerve, rehabilitate the nerve, regenerate the damage that's been done. So that's step 2. What's step 3? We've got to provide building blocks for you to repair the nerves, heal the blood vessels, and most important of all, decrease that cellular inflammation that's driving the damage. Now, remember, we discussed if you do the right thing, amazing stuff can happen. Now, we have had a long time this approach in our clinic, this approach to treat the root cause of whatever problem our patients have. So I want to show you Andy. Andy came into our office a number of years ago. Andy was sent home by her physicians at the hospital and told, get your affairs in order. You've got 2 weeks to live. So Andy heard about our clinic. She came in and we took the same approach to discovering what was the root cause of her problems. Well, very quickly, she began to improve. And this is Andy 2 years later, having competed in a mixed men and women 3-on-3 basketball tournament where she played and they won first place. So Andy's with us still today. This is a decade ago that we saw Andrea. So a year after we began seeing her, she came to my office with this gift for me. This is a sign that she had created and I cherish today. She painted on there, your body's ability to heal is greater than anyone has permitted you to believe. She understands that being told that she was going to die within 2 weeks, that she could still do something to heal her body. So that's what we want to offer for you. We want to show you how it's done. So just think for a moment, if it's possible, if you can do this, what would it be like to sleep through the night peacefully without that pain shooting through your feet like a lightning bolt? What would it mean to your spouse to be able to sleep through the night because you're sleeping and not keeping them awake? How would it be to walk with confidence, not worrying about falling down and feeling steady and doing the things that you like to do, taking trips, enjoying time with family, being able to walk across the grass just to see your grandchild compete in a sporting event would be a big, big deal. How would we feel a decade younger and get back to doing the things you like to do? Now think about this. I've never known anyone that said, I worked my whole life. I put aside money, I sacrificed, I may have invested, I have a retirement, because when I retire, I want to spend all that money going to the doctor and not being able to do anything. Nobody ever says that. Everybody works their life so that when they retire, they can do the things they love most. And it usually centers around people. They want to be with their grandchildren. They want to have experiences. They want to travel. They want to be on the golf course every day. Whatever it is, I want to dance with my sweetheart. But to have that taken away from you because of conditions like this is unacceptable. And I think that we should hear from Paul.
I actually came into the Wellspring Clinic searching for someone that can get rid of an incredible sharp knife stabbing pain that I've had in my back for over 3 months now. And I have had very little movement in my neck. It's given, I've got neuropathy in my hands because of this pain, and it's gone down into my fingertips. So it's extreme neuropathy. It's just needles and pins, and I can't grip or hold anything. And I do a lot of things that I need my hands. I need my mobility, and I can't even sit without that pain just completely stopping me from doing anything. I came into Wellsprings, started their treatment, and the very first treatment, I got about 2 hours of relief. It was absolutely incredible. I've been having regular treatments, and it has gotten exponentially better. Every treatment I have, it's allowed me to, I mean, the pain's virtually gone in my back. I mean, the pain that I was suffering from so badly is non-existent, it's gone. And the neuropathy is getting less and less in my hands. I'm able to grip things and start doing projects again. I still got a ways to go, but it's what a change. I mean, it's been substantial. And now instead of these treatments lasting just a few hours or lasting days, I mean, the treatment is still working. It's still helping me by the time I get my next treatment. So it's just getting better and better each time. And I can't be more grateful to Wellspring for the things they're doing for me with the special equipment that they have, things that I've never had done before. And I've been to specialists for years. I've dealt with chronic pain in my back, and nobody has ever had anything other than just prescribing drugs that have given me any relief from some of this neuropathy and back pain that I'm suffering from. So thank you to Wellspring. I appreciate it so much, and I'm getting my life back. And what more can you ask? It's been an absolutely incredible experience, and I'll keep going. I actually came into the Wellspring Clinic.
Now that's Paul talking to us, and obviously we had more issues to take care of with Paul than just his neuropathy, but that's the direction we've gone, and that's what experience. What Paul didn't tell you in that is that we are actually, he's gone back to riding his motorcycle. So why do you want to feel better? What's in it for you? Was it so you could sit in a rocking chair and worry about falling down, possibly losing a limb? I don't think so. Why do you want to get better? Let's put in the chat. Dr. C, tell us what people are putting in the chat. Why is it important for them to get better?
Well, we've got a few things coming in. Here's because somebody does want that opportunity to get back to playing with their grandkids again. I like that Stephanie likes to square dance, and that's not one that we get very often, but she definitely would like to get back to that. Deborah wants to get back to working in a daycare. Jim, just so that he can live in each day without pain, which is, again, it's something that when you start thinking about the quality of life that you can get just from decreasing your pain. Dolores wants to go on vacations and enjoy it. And Phil just wants to be able to walk without burning in his feet. And Michelle, again, travel, play tennis, enjoy the grandkids. Edmund wants to work with his hands. I mean, that's something else that Paul didn't talk about, but he does a lot of work with his hands, where he's an artist, he's a jewelry maker, he's a painter, and so he's able to start doing things like that again. Again, grandchildren is always a number one topic that I hear here on the chat, and just want to feel normal again. So again, that answers just keep rolling in, but you know, it definitely touches me to see how many things people have given up in their life as a result of their health condition.
Yeah, it's get it. We see it every day here, and I get it because I lived it with you. It was limiting my life as well. So where do we go from here? What do we do? How can we get the ball rolling? Well, the next steps are simple. We're going to invite you to book a one-on-one personal consultation with us. The call will be 45 minutes to an hour long. We're going to really focus on your neuropathy. What are the symptoms? What symptoms are you having, so we can identify really which fibers of nerves are being damaged? Then we're going to discuss your goals. What's important to you? And with all that information, we can create a personalized plan for you and understand really what you need to get you to where you want to go. Now, to this consultation, it's important that you bring whoever's your backup, whoever is your support team, whoever helps you to live your life and to take care of yourself. The person closest to you is most often a spouse, but often it involves our children who want the best for us. And we find those who have the best, biggest, most involved support team have the most success. Now, whether your treatment plan is big or small, it doesn't matter. Your support team is critical. And we gain a lot of information from these people when we're asking questions about what's going on with you. Now, what does this cost? Now, normally, when you come into our office or you book a Zoom call with us from across the nation, we charge $367 for this. But because you're on the webinar with us, we have reserved 11 slots, 11 spots. And I know that's not very many for all of you that are on this call with us tonight, but 11 spots at $39, because we go through all of this with everybody. And you've been here, you're going to save us time, you're going to save us money. We're passing that savings on to you. So $39 is our gift to you for being here tonight. $39, what does $39 mean really? Compared to the rest of your life? What's $39 compared to remodeling your home to fit a wheelchair? Let's talk about who this is for. Well, if you're sick of taking medications only to get worse, if your health is your #1 priority, and if you're ready to take charge of your life again and take it back, then this offer is for you. Now, who is it not for? Well, if you're a little bit scared to take on the responsibility of getting better, if you're thinking that $39 is an awful lot of money for what we're offering, then we haven't done a good job tonight to explain what the offer really is and what we can do to change your life through that $39. And if that's the case, maybe this offer isn't for you at this time. Now, this offer is good for tonight, tomorrow, Thursday, clear till Tuesday, but come next Tuesday, there's a new group of people and then it's off the table and somebody else gets those slots, just to be fair. Click the button. My staff, my support team should have already put in the chat the link that you need to click to go ahead and register to take advantage of one of these 11 spots. So this is what you're going to see when you do. This is the page you'll be taken to. You give us some basic information. It gives you an opportunity to pay. As soon as you do, it'll take you to this page. And this page is the booking page where you can find a time that suits you. When we get 11 slots, we cut it off. And after you've booked your time that's convenient for you, well, then it'll take you to this page. And this page is really important. It is the paperwork that tells us about you specifically. The more information we can glean before we ever get started, the better that we can prepare your personalized plan. So take a minute, fill this out so that we can go through it and already have in our mind a set of questions and a direction to go with you when we get on the call. It's very important. And so if you'll follow it through to that point and fill out that paperwork, it's a very big help. So don't wait. The neuropathy is getting worse every single day. It's going downhill. It's not going to get better. And you've got a life to live. You've got a life to take back. So that's it. That's our whole webinar tonight. What we want to do, I think, Dr. C, unless I've made a mistake, it's we should stop the share and go into the Q&A. What do you think?
That sounds great. We're getting some questions coming in, so let's address those.
All right, wonderful.
So one of the questions that came in, and we've had a couple of these, and I've started addressing them. But I'm going to let you just tell it to the whole group, and that's wanting to know, is this a home-based treatment?
Oh, yeah, we should have been more specific with that, because even with Paul coming on and giving his testimonial about being in our office, when we treat neuropathy, it is a home-based treatment plan. We used to do it purely out of the office. And we realized that we didn't get as effective an outcome as we wanted if people had to come into our office to get the treatment. We need to treat this thing every single day and not 2 or 3 times a week. So yeah, it's home-based. Once we perfected it with our local area, then we knew we could send it out across the nation. Everybody could get involved and they can do a home-based treatment. Absolutely. Now, you might be wondering, we can connect over Zoom to answer questions and help you along and coach you through the program, but everything else is done from home.
And I think that leads into this next question a little bit, as far as what is the evaluation and testing, and so I I think what they're wanting to know is how do we do this over the Zoom? So again, I think talking to the paperwork and the importance of that might help to clarify what this question is.
Yeah, you know, when you see the paperwork, what it is, the questions are very detailed. They're asking about the symptoms and about frequency. The kind of symptoms you have tell us a lot about what kind of nerves are being damaged. And we have some other things that we can get to during the face-to-face consultation that we can determine what's going on with you as well. Some questionnaires that have been developed that are as accurate at diagnosing as an NCV, a nerve conductance velocity test. And so over the internet, we're able to go through those things and really understand what you're going through and what you need at that point. We've done this a long time. So not our first rodeo, but the more you can get detail, you can give us that paperwork, the better we can figure this out without having to keep digging and digging when we are face to face.
All right. Do you accept Medicare, Blue Shield, PPOs?
Okay, and that's a question we get asked a lot, and I was ready for you. So I'm going to share my screen again. This is right out of the Medicare guidelines. It's section 2251.3, and this is what's describing what they'll pay for and what they're unwilling to pay for. So in their own language, a treatment plan that seeks to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life, or a therapy that is performed to maintain or prevent deterioration of a chronic condition is deemed not medically necessary. What they're saying is we will pay for infection care, wheelchairs, canes, walkers, amputations, but we're not willing to pay for things to help you get better. That is just the politics of Medicare. And insurance companies, in regard to neuropathy, they have followed Medicare. So they don't cover the kinds of things that will actually get better. They pay for drugs, they pay for surgery, they pay for wheelchairs. So unfortunately, it's not going to cover any of that part of the treatment. Next question.
And believe it or not, a lot of these have been able to address along the way. So unless somebody has some new questions to throw in the chat for me, I think a lot of them I've either addressed individually or Dr. Norman has recently addressed. So we'll give it another minute or two and see if anything comes through. If not, we will give you the rest of your evening back.
All right, so great. Everyone, listen, this is what we do. We're passionate about this. Having gone through it, I know what you're going through. I was in your shoes, pun intended, and I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. And it's frustrating for us to see people coming into our office living through this stuff because the standard of care does not address the root problem. It doesn't take care of what needs to be taken care of. So we're here for you. We try to make it just as easy as we can for you to see what needs to be done. And we hope you take advantage of it. I know it's only 11 slots. That's not nearly enough for everybody, but it's the best we can do at our webinar tonight. And we do this every week. So we'll be on to the next group next week. And we treat a lot of different things in the clinic, as you saw with Paul. But as far as across the nation, we can handle this one. We can handle this one. Met one of our new people today. She'd been on the program for 7 days and already feeling significant changes. She never thought she'd get there today. Her words, pleasantly surprised. I wasn't surprised at all. We've done this and this works. So if you're ready, let's make this happen. We're going to close out tonight. We'll leave the call up for a minute or two for any incoming calls. But other than that, thank you for being here tonight. Know there's hope. Know there's things we can do. And we're here for you. Good night. God bless everyone.